Hi, welcome to another lecture in our series on female reproductive structures. In this episode, we will be covering fallopian tubes and ovaries and a little bit about ovulation. And I think that's all we'll have time for. Okay, so we're going to start at the top. So this is an oviduct, what is an oviduct? An oviduct is just a fallopian tube. So it just sort of depends where you're from or, what kind of literature on the topics that you read. But these two are the same. So AKA means also known as, and then fallopian tubes. I've always been taught to call them fallopian tubes, but you're welcome to call them oviducts or fallopian tubes, whichever suits you. Okay, so when I say fallopian tube, I mean these guys up here. There you go. So, when I reference this as the goat, these are the horns of the goat that spiral. Okay, so those are your fallopian tubes. What else do I need to say? I will get into ovulation in just a second. Okay, I'm gonna skip and come back because I have something to say about this. Okay, how cool is this? So, what you're looking at in the picture is a fallopian tube. So this whole thing is a fallopian tube. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, you can see the giant chicken egg in the fallopian tube. That is so crazy. I don't know why I think it's so crazy. I mean, it makes perfect sense, but it's pretty big. Anyway, so, what's the deal? Chickens ovulate every day, once a day. Some chickens have a laying season where there's just like a period of time where they will ovulate once a day, every day, and then they won't anymore. Um, I, I, I'm not like super familiar with chickens that we breed specifically to lay eggs. Like, I guess they lay all year round. I'm not really sure on that, so I don't really want to speak on that because I don't know. But for your average chicken that hasn't been just like, insanely genetically modified, uh, they have a laying season. Let me see, maybe like a month or two, maybe 3, and then they'll lay 1 egg a day during that time, and then they're done for the year. So, just kind of depends. So that's a giant chicken egg in there. So when you ovulate, what happens is that you release an egg, no matter what, So chicken eggs, they obviously have a shell on them by the time that they exit the body. But how cool is that? They lay 1 egg a day. You ovulate once a month. They ovulate once a day, tomato, tomato. It looks like they're trying to note either 5 sections here or 5 stages of egg development because the deal is because chickens can ovulate once a day for a period of time, they have to have multiple eggs like ready in the fallopian tube, all developing, at different stages, but at consecutively, like at the same time, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutively. But is that the word I want to say? In conjunction with one another. Like they're all developing in the same structure, like in the same fallopian tube, but all the stages of development are different. Yeah. So anyway, moving on. I think that's super cool. The ovary. All right. So what is your ovary? It's this thing. You have 2. So what do? They make the eggs. So they create these things called follicles, and they have to grow I'm going to say that. Grow the follicle, mature the follicle, and then that follicle will ultimately grow and mature an egg. And one lucky follicle will release that egg during a process called ovulation. There's that prefix again. So if you know anything that starts with OV, OVU, OVI, OVA, all of it basically just means egg. And I can't remember, anyway. So if you think of like an example for that would be like an oval. Oval, right? Ova. And an oval is egg-shaped. So there you have it, another example. So anyway, where are these eggs kept? These eggs are kept in your ovaries and they mature every month. You'll have one that matures the most and then it will release and that will travel down your fallopian tubes during a process called ovulation, and it goes through these cilia, these little hair-like structures. It's just tiny little fibers, just and they basically crowd surf. They like pass this egg down in a process of 12 to 24 hours. So that's not very long. So how can we populate an entire planet in 12 to 24 hours? That's a very small window. Well, you don't is the deal. So we'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so this will travel down. Eventually it will go to your uterus and make its way out of the vagina and out the body if it is not fertilized. You will never notice this, more or less. Like you're not gonna just like see anything. It's not like a chicken egg where you just are like, oh, I've laid an egg. Apparently chickens are now British. I don't know. So point being, you won't really notice. There's a small percentage of the female population that can feel they can feel the egg pinching off of the end of the follicle, and so there's like a little, like a ping of pain, and then it will continue, and then others of us can feel nothing at all and are completely oblivious. All right, so what else do I need to tell you? Let's see here. Ovaries, yes, they secrete estrogen and progesterone, and that makes sense, right? Because progesterone has to do with the thickening of the uterine lining and whether that needs to happen or not, and the creation of estrogen, which is your main hormone for reproduction. Well, it's one of the big ones. Let's do that. Okay. Oh, yes. Well, let's get through this and then I'll go back. Look how cool. Okay, so this is an ovary. You can see they've labeled that for us here, ovary. And then this is the follicle. It looks like a volcano. How creepy. And then that's your egg. See? See the egg? It's getting excreted? That's crazy. I have never seen pictures like this before. Like, that is insane. I love it. Okay. So what happens with fertilization? All right, so let's say sperm makes its way through the vagina, past the cervix and into the uterus. If you are ovulating or about to ovulate soon, then the sperm will try to make it to the fallopian tube. So there we go, I'm a spermie. And it meets, these are not drawn to scale, and it meets an egg and it burrows in and it will fertilize here. So where does fertilization happen? Fertilization happens in the fallopian tubes. Okay, so up here, there's an egg and then a sperm, and it fertilizes the egg. And so this is fertilization. Now, I want to clear up any misconceptions. Implantation will happen in the uterus along the uterine lining there, but fertilization happens up here. So, Ingle, what happens if implantation and fertilization happen up here? You're in a heap of trouble. You're in a really big mess, health-wise, in the health of your baby. So what happens then? Let me change colors here. So what happens is that baby will start to try to grow here. This is a problem because, one, there's not that great of a blood supply there compared to your uterus. And two, it will eventually rupture your fallopian tube, like it will burst your fallopian tube. This is called an ectopic pregnancy. Anytime it's implanted anywhere outside of the uterus is called ectopic. This is a really sad situation. If it happens really, really early on, potentially you could miscarry, and which would honestly in that situation be the best option for you, because if not, if this baby continues to grow, then it will rupture that fallopian tube and you will likely lose it. You will have to have a partial hysterectomy, and so you would lose that, and you would likely lose your ovary there and any ability for that side of your body to ovulate, and so your chances of pregnancy go down. It doesn't go to zero, but it does go down, and it's just so sad when that happens. There's even some crazier stories about where a baby was ectopic and burst through the fallopian tube lining here and grabbed had what was it, like a weird placenta in the lower abdomen or something. It was crazy. It found like another blood supply and somehow was able to grow quite large. Yeah, quite large. But ultimately, it, you know, that was a really awful situation because then it just kind of ruptured everything. And it was kind of yeah. So anyway, in an ectopic situation, if it does not rupture your fallopian tube and a doctor discovers it early on, they will go in there and remove the baby if it's small enough to make incisions into the fallopian tube, or to go in, if they can go in through the uterus and up the tube. If there's a way for them to access it at all without damaging the structures, then they will basically, remove that baby from the fallopian tubes. The baby will not survive, just so we're clear on that. But if left to grow, then it could really hurt the mother. And if she didn't seek medical attention, that would be really dangerous for her health overall. Like, not good at all, like at all. So anyway, ectopic pregnancies are really, really sad. There are also things called chemical pregnancies or chemical false pregnancies. And they're not pregnancies, but they will register positive on a pregnancy test. And that is when your body, for some reason, is convinced that you are growing a baby. And like if your hormones are all over the place, then you can be in a sad, but I have witnessed in my life someone who ended up with a chemical pregnancy, and it was a crazy time, and she was like so confused. And so when they explained to her like what had happened with her body, like she was like, okay, whoo, I didn't understand how that was possible. So anyway, it's a time when you can register positive on a pregnancy test, but you were not pregnant. Those are really rare, by the way. Okay, let's see. Is there anything else that I didn't mention? Let me think. There is one more thing that, now that I think of it, I've forgotten. So your ovary secretes estrogen and progesterone, but there's another hormone called your luteinizing hormone, just luteinizing hormone, or LH, and it acts upon your ovaries. So LH acts upon. Okay. So your luteinizing hormone acts in your ovaries. But your overall ovaries secrete estrogen and progesterone. So anyway, just a clarification statement there. I don't think that there's much more to talk about. We kind of already did this section in a different video. Let's see here. Is there anything? Okay, I mean, we can talk about some of the cool things estrogen does. So, like some of the things that maybe you didn't know. So, estrogen is one of those things that helps you maintain homeostasis as a body temp. The cool thing is that estrogen may delay memory loss. That is awesome. Major perk. Whoop, whoop. Okay, so we already know that part. Oh, yes. So estrogen does help regulate cholesterol. So it makes coronary heart disease and stuff like that have lower percentages in women and higher percentages in men. We have talked about the ovary. We've talked about the vagina. Oh yes, estrogen does help preserve bone density. But what about osteoporosis, you ask? Isn't that more common in women? Yes, game show host, it is. So yes, but if you look at people with osteoporosis, you'll see that most of them are menopausal. Or postmenopausal, I guess. I don't know what you want to call it. They're done. And so the deal is when you go through menopause, you lose that estrogen. Like your estrogen just tanks. And there are lots of benefits to estrogen. And one of them is preserving bone density. So it's actually better for your bones to have estrogen and go through menstruation and ovulation and the cycling. It's actually better for your bones. We already knew this. We already knew that. Yes, estrogen stimulates breast development at puberty and prepares for future milk production. You should not be producing any milk unless you have birthed a child. Okay? So if you ever have a situation where you have a discharge from your nipples, you need to see a doctor. It's not like, life or death or anything like that immediate, but it is like kind of a problem, It can be a side effect of certain meds. I think there's certain antidepressants and things like that that can cause lactation as a thing, like a side effect. But I mean, that's also kind of rare. But if there's an issue like that, then yeah, seek medical attention. Okay. You're probably not going to die. It'll just get sorted out and we'll all be better for it. Estrogen also helps protect kidneys, which is interesting. That's like a whole separate note, but it's a really good, organ protectant. Progesterone, I think I talked about in another video, but yes, it does keep that lining for pregnancy and for growing. Okay, the vulva. The vulva that we've talked about before, it's just that external, all the external labias out there. Okay, I think that is it. Yeah. So if I've left anything out or made a mistake, just shoot me an email and I'll try to fix it. Thank you.